Chapter 7. Solitary Walking. A perfect solitude is, perhaps, the greatest punishment we can suffer. Every pleasure languishes when enjoyed apart from company, and every pain becomes more cruel and intolerable. That's a quotation written by David Hume in his A Treatise on Human Nature. Our language has wisely sensed the two sides of being alone. It has created the word loneliness to express the pain of being alone, and it has created the word solitude to express the glory of being alone. That's a quotation from Paul Tillich's The Eternal Now. During my remaining days in Cambridge, the world around me became increasingly unsettled. I felt as if some seismic shift were about to disrupt and redefine the life I had known when I had arrived at the college 6 months ago. To begin with, just before I set off for Southwold in the early days of February 2020, Brexit had become official. There was no going back. At 23 hours Greenwich Mean Time on January the 31st, 2020, the withdrawal of the United Kingdom from the European Union had gone into effect. I recall that the actual moment was strangely uneventful. Feeling that nothing would be quite the same again, I made myself stay up and watch the telly at 11 p.m. to witness the transition. Alone in the college flat, I sat on the settee in front of the TV screen and wondered if other students, fellows, and staff might be doing the same thing. Other than a low-keyed light show on the doors of 10 Downing Street, there was little else to mark the occasion. Not even Boris Johnson appeared, though in Parliament Square a jubilant Nigel Farage and his supporters held some motley celebration, complete with patriotic songs, Land of Hope and Glory, sung off-key, St. George's flags and microphones blasting out, "We leave tonight, we did it." Not having any stomach for this, I turned off the program and crawled into bed. I awoke the following morning to a subdued Cambridge. The city was one of the few areas that had voted solidly against Brexit. The day felt sober, yet strangely ordinary. Life seemed to go on as usual, but I sensed that people around me were quietly unsettled. What might the future hold for not only themselves, but also others, now that Britain officially stood alone, isolated from the European community? At around the same time, unsettling murmurs about the coronavirus began to circulate. Another form of isolation was emerging. The college sent out notices advising people that COVID was lurking in the area and throughout the world. Email bulletins about quarantine rooms, how to keep one's distance from others, testing, and reminders of the nurse's hours crowded my computer screen. Signs on chemists' doors announced that there were no more face masks for sale. A sold-out notice taped to the glass of the Grantchester chemist flapped in the breeze. Yet, in late February, I had not really seen anyone, except Chinese and Japanese tourists, wearing one. A Japanese friend at the college confessed to me that she would have worn a mask everywhere, but wanting to fit in at the college, where no one was wearing a mask, had decided not to. Occasionally, and contributing to the confusion, editorials appeared about how masks are not helpful anyway. To add to this sense of disorientation, it was upsetting to read articles in the newspapers about the increasing movement of refugees and the closing of national borders, all of which, in my mind, exacerbated a painful sense of the disturbing dislocation of people throughout the world. Isolated, cut off from their homes, and cast into uncertainty, many people faced hardship and often the specter of death. March 1st arrived. My residence at college came to an end. It was time to return to the States. On the flight back, I worried a little about catching the coronavirus, but did not wear any protection. I recall, however, that wanting to reduce the possibility of becoming infected, I turned off the air vent above my seat and talked sparingly to my seat companions who were returning from Egypt. Once I stepped off the plane in Buffalo, I entered a city that, among others around the world, was soon to be in lockdown. During the following months, most of my Buffalo friends didn't go anywhere without wearing a mask. We kept our distance from one another, declined to congregate in closed spaces, ordered groceries to be delivered, and wiped clean every surface that might carry the virus. Suddenly, we were more separated from one another and our surrounding community than we had ever experienced. Instead of traveling, we learned to roam the virtual, untouchable domain of Zoom. Loneliness seeped into our homes and obliterated our sense of freedom to explore the world around us. We were indefinitely isolated. This story is familiar to many. During the subsequent long, lonesome months, I occasionally thought about the contrast between the detached, slightly threatening domain of my return and my earlier solitary walks along the East Anglia coast. Why, I wondered, when rambling alone by the sea, had I not felt as lonely and unsettled as during the lockdown? Even though my solitary walks took me away from the support of my usual milieu and into places that were unfamiliar to me, I had rarely felt desolate and alone. With few exceptions, being by myself in an untried setting had not been, as my friends often feared it might be, unnerving or upsetting. On the contrary, while wandering away from the familiar, I had more often than not experienced an affirming and comfortable state of being. I rarely felt desolate, threatened, marooned, or vulnerable. Even though unaccompanied, I enjoyed a dynamic sense of companionship. I benefited from a lively connection to the sights, sounds, touch, and smells of what surrounded me. This heightened sensitivity not only invigorated me, but also gave me a sense of belonging. Loneliness was not possible, for I was part of the world again, and the world was a part of me. More receptive than usual to the plethora of details and sensations swirling about me, I appreciated and noted each moment, a consequence that solo walkers have noted for centuries. I found companionship in the sleepless wind, the repetitive movements of the sea, the quiet roar of the retreating shingle, the feel of the sand collapsing under my footsteps, the circulating, sharp cry of the gulls overhead, the taste of salt spray on my lips, and even in the clatter of the discarded container blowing along the deserted promenade. Noticing these particulars attached me to the fullness of experience. Being solitary placed me more solidly within the sensual world and shielded me from the imprisoning, noisy, hurrying, and alienating business of daily life. I enjoyed, instead, a keener and perhaps more intimate relationship to the natural and external world than when with others. Rarely did I deem myself alone when watching the billows break on shore, seeing the wild birds come and go, breathing in the cool dew of morning, gazing at the occasional passerby, or wandering through a town's cobbled streets. In my rambles, I also became more aware than usual of participating in a community's history. Passing by such landmarks as ancient Roman walls, churches with medieval origins, lost industrial sites, Georgian mansions, fishermen's cottages, centuries-old passageways, and once populated railroad stations, I virtually joined that which had once constituted these parts. No longer did I belong exclusively to the present era, but also to other centuries. Being solitary offered me a placement in history. Ambling alone also allowed me to experience a certain affirmation through the casual exchanges with the occasional passerby. Although brief, these encounters contributed to an unspoken yet mutually understood shared sense of community and hence created a feeling of belonging. We were all by the sea because we, each in our own way, treasured being there. These moments verified my existence, for they confirmed that I am neither invisible nor forgotten. A few words exchanged with a couple on a bench or a person walking his dog were reassuring. I felt included. My solitary walks also rendered another gift, the relative liberty to roam and go where I pleased, often without purpose or expectation. This was a species of freedom that was sadly denied during lockdown. Walking without a companion by the sea, I was not compelled to keep up with anyone, and no one had to adjust to my pace. Furthermore, with the exception of the college porter's well-meaning and occasional disapproval of where I was going, nobody was around to restrict and determine what's next. I could turn left, right, around, up or down as I saw fit or as whim beckoned. I could surrender to the siren song of a moment. There was room for spontaneity. Such freedom opened up paths that were admittedly not always comfortable, indeed, sometimes unnerving and distressing, but always invigorating. When wandering alone, new perspectives emerged. An appreciation of my surroundings became more acute. The impulse to be curious flourished, and an understanding of where I was increased. During the long months of the pandemic, vivid memories of ambling along the shores of Cromer, Great Yarmouth, Felixstowe, Lowestoft, and South Wold stayed with me to remind me that there are alternatives to an isolating and often lonely life. These recollections taught me that solitude need not always be a punishment, nor need it necessarily be a condition to be suffered. Instead, it can be a cherished state of mind that paradoxically offers companionship and a sense of being part of a larger, intricate world. For all this, I am thankful for my solitary walks along the East Anglia coast.